So I think the fact that we work 5 days a week and have 2 days off is really fucking sick. There's a lot of research that suggests that working more does not necessarily mean getting more done. And I think it's become clear that in a sort of modern framework, this is very much the case. There are a lot of jobs people have now that are almost like fake jobs. They're doing a lot of busy work. This is pretty well documented, and a lot of people have probably had these experiences at their jobs, especially when you go from working in an office to working from home and no one can see you, no one knows what you're doing in between bouts of actual work, and you remain just as productive whilst spending a lot more time watching TV or making food or exercising, whatever else it is you're doing, when normally you would be sat staring at your computer pretending to work in case your boss looked at you. It's pretty obvious that most people in office jobs, if they worked 4 days a week, could get the exact same amount done, if not more, you know. I've been trying this experiment with myself recently. I wouldn't even say trying this experiment, I've just kind of made this choice. After a certain point I decided, like, I'm still going to make music, still going to pursue it, blah blah blah, but I don't have any expectations of myself in terms of time, and my output has been exactly the same. And to be fair, sometimes I barely put any time in at all. I used to try and force myself to compete with this like grind mindset, you know, all these like rappers and musicians who are like, I'm in the studio fucking 12 hours a day and shit. And I mean, fuck me, you're gonna be boring if you do that, aren't you, really? Like, you're gonna be a boring person, and all you're gonna talk about is your work. And that was what I was doing. And yeah, I found like, I've been kind of amazed at how productive I've been in very short periods of time, because you basically just do the essential work, you know, and you have complete focus and clarity. So you sit down to do something, you know exactly what you need to do, you've had time to think about it, you've had time for your mind to rest, you feel actually motivated because you haven't been, you know, doing it for fucking 50 hours a week or whatever, and it's much easier. People are just working too much, it's a fact. In the modern world, so much stuff is automated, so much stuff is so easy to do, so much stuff doesn't really require that much human input. And the problem we're going to face, I think, is we're not going to let go of this hard work mindset, but a lot of jobs will disappear because of automation. So we're going to end up with a bunch of people working way too hard, having barely any time to see their families, to raise their kids. We know all, you know, see already the impact this is having. How many of these fucking whack jobs who do these like shootings and shit, how many of them were basically neglected as children? A very large number. I'm not that fucking, you know, it's any justification whatsoever, but fact is, like, you know, that in a society where so many people are working not in family businesses, not you know, with their families, not on their homes, not kind of, but people are working away for someone else, sat in a fucking office, kind of coldly detached from their real life, spending the majority of their time and energy doing something that, like, much of the time is kind of meaningless. It's you know, it's not great at all for our society, and I think we can see so many problems that's causing. But anyway, yeah, I mean, there've been studies on people, for example, even doing things like 4-hour days, switching from 8 hours to 4 hours, and they get the same amount done basically. And they, you know, you just do the essential work. You sit down and it's like you don't really have a choice. You know, you've only got 4 hours, you need to get X amount of stuff done. You just fucking work for those 4 hours, and it's not mind numbing. It doesn't numb your mind, you know, like you might have noticed the difference in yourself or in friends or family on a weekend compared to a weekday. When you talk to someone who's been at work for 8 or 9 hours that day, like, themselves, they're not at their best, they've kind of given all they can give to that job, and their brain just becomes a bit dull, and like it's a waste of our lives, man. Like, I understand that there's definitely a place for hard work, and in some jobs you want people to work hard, you know, and in some sectors it's just necessary. There's not enough people. It's an important skill that these people have, and some people, you know, that's what they sign up for, and that's what is kind of needed from them. But for the most part, it's not necessary for all of us, or most of us, to work in this way. I think it's very unhealthy that we are kind of, not that it happens, but that it's just assumed as standard. It's like you just work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's just what you do every job. They don't look at the role and say, what do we really need? How much time do we really need from this person? No, it's 40 hours a week, full time. It's like, oh, what a coincidence, you know, what a coincidence that this role just happens to require the exact same amount of hours as every other role. That's strange, you know, and you're not cutting it too fine, you're not overdoing it. This is perfect. 40 hours a week. You basically need this person's life, you know. You get 2 days off at the weekend, it disappears before you know it, and you're back to work again. Suddenly you're like, oh shit, what did I even do this weekend, you know? The time is gone. So I think by working less we could create more jobs, spread you know, the wealth around a little bit, and in many ways increase productivity, or at least the quality of people's work, I think, would increase greatly, regardless of what they were doing, you know. I think the quality would improve in many respects. Yeah, I think it'd be an ideal solution. And I wonder, with all the shit that's been going on for the last 10 years, all the crap we've been discussing in the public sphere, most of which has no relation to our real lives, and is generally just very negative, a lot of very, very negative discourse for the past decade or so. It's been fairly unbearable to live through, and it's been a lot of nonsense. Imagine if we had put more of that effort, more of that time into demanding tangible, practical things like this that would change everybody's lives. Everybody has to work, you know? Everybody has a family. Everybody has hobbies. These are things that are universal, that unite us. And, you know, in that respect, we have so much in common with each other that we don't have in common with the people at the top, the people who ultimately pay our wages and who we essentially are making richer. We don't really have anything in common with them, because most of them have gotten to a point where they can only work an hour or two a day, should they choose to, and still be like filthy rich and whatever, you know. But at the very least, I think we could have a bit more respect for our time and not just accept this idea that we should work 40 hours a week. I think that's insane, and it's sad, because your work should not be limited to your day job, but it's been that way for a lot of people. A lot of people, they don't cook, they don't deal with their family matters, they don't exercise, they don't work on their homes, they don't work hard on things they're trying to accomplish outside of work, because for the most part work takes everything they have, and because they see it in this binary way. That's when I work, this is when I come home and just fucking like do shit all, basically, and just like eat convenient food and watch TV and numb my brain until I have to get up again and repeat the whole cycle. And I just wonder, yeah, like what we could have achieved if we'd spent the last 10 years talking more about that kind of thing, and pushing for that to be kind of standardized full time, 4 days a week, you know, as a start, you know, just as a start. 8 hours a day, 4 hours a week, what's that? That's 32 hours. 32 hours a week, that's plenty. That's a lot of work. A 3-day weekend, I don't think that's unreasonable. You're still working more days than you have off. It's not lazy, it's just sensible. It just gives you more time the things that are important. And I think, again, as like automation and shit takes more and more of the work out of our lives, which it will. I mean, there's all these bullshit arguments people make with automation, like oh no, there'll be new jobs to work on the computers. No, there won't. There'll be a tiny number of jobs to do that. Otherwise, what's the fucking point in the computers, you know? Like, the point is that they make things easier and they automate processes that normally... Luna! Bet on. Luna, this way. Bet on. Sorry, it's a bit hard to... As a bike company, it's a bit hard to focus on 3 things at once. God, I thought I was a right nutter. He was like, what's the fucking big deal, man? I mean, cycle through. Anyway, yeah, it's... What was I saying? Automation. Yeah, the people always have this argument, like, because, like, if you look, for example, right, driverless cars, they're about to eradicate jobs. I mean, I don't know, I'm not that up to date on the progress of driverless cars, but I know that, you know, when they do finally make it here, they're going to eradicate so many jobs. They're just going to disappear. We're not going to need truck drivers, Amazon delivery drivers, taxi drivers. They're just going to disappear. And people will be like, oh, but yeah, there'll be new jobs to work on the machines. Yeah, again, like, not really, not as many. There's a huge number of jobs you're talking about disappearing. There's really not going to be that many jobs created to work on the machines. That's the point of them, is they're efficient. I agree there will be some jobs created, but it's really stupid to think that it's going to be equal. It's not the case. I think the easiest way, again, to create more jobs, potentially, and I know I'm contradicting myself here because I'm kind of saying we can be just as productive with less time. I think in most jobs we can be just as productive with less time, but if you look, for example, at like retail, you can't be. You have to be in the shop to be productive. You have to be there serving customers, and we all like the fact that the shop's open, you know, 6 or 7 days a week, and it's convenient, and we can get shit whenever we want it or need it. Well, that's a perfect example of an industry we can just spread the work out. You know, people can earn the same amount of money for slightly less work, assuming they're working for a fucking huge conglomerate and not a small family business, and more jobs can be created. I understand I'm oversimplifying it to a degree, but there's clearly a huge number of potential benefits to this, and a lot of possibility, and at the very least it's fucking stupid that we're stuck in this paradigm of work is 40 hours a week and anything less is like part-time. That's bullshit. And most people in offices, come here Luna, most people who work in offices and shit know that when they do an 8-hour day, they're working for about 2 hours. That's a fact. They just do. They're slacking off most of the day, pretending to work, and they're still... Oi, come here Luna, come here. Depends what you're doing, obviously, but most of those people are still making a shitload of money for their for their companies. It's just a fact. So yeah. Anyway, I think that's something we should work towards. I think it's a shame we're not fighting for tangible things like that more, that would actually radically alter our society and improve the quality of our lives enormously. Alright, later chaps. Say bye, Luna.